Turbo trainer dying in the final climb, I'd say that's just about worst case scenario. But let me tell you, felt like a heart attack in my backside. My name's Andy, and I'm an ultra cyclist on a quest to be the best I possibly can be. I make videos about ultra, training, kit, and adventures with a fresh upload every week. I've got a long road ahead of me, and I want to bring you along for the journey. Welcome to The Road Provides. How hard is Everesting on Zwift, really? That's a question I've been asking myself for a little while now, ever since this was inserted in my training plan about 3 months ago by my coach. So this week, I'm going to take one for the team and try to find out. And if you're not already subscribed, this is just one challenge as part of my training plan going into quite a busy 2025 ultra cycling season. In about 8 weeks' time, I've got a 24-hour time trial. I'm racing 1,200 kilometers in Bosnia in June, and then in July I've got a 4,000 kilometer race across Europe. So if you're not already subscribed, and I know from the analytics, about half of the people that watch these videos aren't. So if you're into ultra cycling related videos, and you're thinking about maybe pushing your own limits at some point in the future, then subscribe and follow along. The first question you might ask is, what the hell is an Everesting? And the concept of this challenge is fiendishly simple. All you have to do is ride your bike up a climb, turn around, roll to the bottom. Continue to do that all day, up and down the same climb until you've reached the same elevation as Mount Everest at 8,848 meters. You have to stay on one climb, and it's not the distance you've ridden either. Once you reach the top of the climb, the difference in elevation that you reach is what you measure. And that's where strategy comes in a bit. Depending on the hill or the mountain you choose, you might have to climb that hill 100 times, or you might climb that mountain 5 times. You can do this challenge indoors or outdoors. And there are really benefits and drawbacks to both. If you choose to do it indoors, you have everything you need close by: a toilet, a shower, all of your food. And even when you roll down a descent, you can hop off the bike and your character on whichever platform you're using will just roll down the hill. If you're doing it outdoors, then obviously you've got to sit on your bike all the way to the bottom of the climb. There are no conveniences nearby unless you get lucky. Then in terms of drawbacks, sitting on a turbo trainer all day can be pretty painful. If you've ever been out for a 4 or 5 hour ride, then you try to do the same ride on a turbo trainer, it's pretty painful. The bike doesn't move underneath you, you're essentially grinding yourself against the saddle the whole time. Long rides outdoors tend to be a bit more comfortable, but it's really swings and roundabouts. For me, I chose to do this challenge indoors for a couple of reasons. When my coach set this challenge for me, he suggested indoors too, because it's January. It's really difficult to insert something like this into your training plan. Spend weeks training, and then in my case, a week tapering down just for the weather to be atrocious and you can't do the event outdoors anymore. And then sure enough, 2 days after the event, this happened. So I think you'll agree doing this challenge indoors was the right thing for me. I went into this challenge with some preconceptions, to be honest. I'm filming this after the challenge, but I'll be completely honest. I went into it thinking it's not going to be that difficult for a number of reasons. I've ridden that amount of time longer in the past. I've ridden that amount of elevation. I've done some quite long rides on the trainer, and I've got a lot of experience in fueling as well. Based on those things, I kind of treated it like a numbers game and thought, this isn't going to be too bad. But I can tell you, even with all that in mind, it was much more challenging than I expected. So I think that's enough waffle. This is already a really long challenge as it is. I've tried to trim the video down as much as possible. Hope this gives you an insight into what Everesting is really like on Zwift, and hope you enjoy the video. We are officially off. The Up to Zwift is on a route called Road to Sky. And when you start the route, you've got about a 10-minute roll in to the beginning of the climb. Bit of a warm up. And then from there, it repeats all day long. So I'm warming up now before the work really starts. we are off. First rep of 8.5 times. Wish me luck. So far so good. Sticking to my pacing strategy, and my heart rate and watts seem to be about where I need them. Long way to go yet. About halfway up the first ascent and feeling pretty good. To be honest, pacing seems to be spot on. I'll come to pacing later. Very sweaty. I'm starting to notice things about Zwift I never did before. It's really helping, actually. It's surprising how these efforts go faster than you think they will. This first 40 minutes of the Alps gone pretty quick. Let's see if I'm still saying that in 10 hours. And so far so good. It is quite hard to manage and maintain the same power, which is a bit of a pain. I was hoping to watch movies, TV, but actually, I think that's gonna be quite hard while keeping my power in the right zone. Just see how I get on. Something tells me this might be more a test of tedium than legs. So, the first thing that comes to mind with an effort like this is training. In my lead up to this, I watched a few people do Everestings and tackle it out of the blue with no training, with obvious consequences. One guy's feet were burning so bad that he couldn't carry on. And if you hadn't done long efforts like this before, that sort of stuff will happen. Zwift might be a video game, virtual world, but the pain on your body is pretty comparable to outside, and in some cases it's worse. So you do need to take it seriously. In my case, it hasn't gone unnoticed. I've been training pretty big weeks lately, and that's really helped. On top of that, the week leading up to the Everesting, I tapered right down until yesterday. So I'm feeling pretty fresh, feeling pretty fit. Without training for this sort of thing, I think you're really setting yourself up for a fall, for injury, and a pretty bad time. This challenge was set to me by my coach, Giovanni Prosperi. His training's been great. Love the guy. Something tells me I'll be cursing his name a bit later. That'll be a new mantra. One down, 7.5 to go. To be honest, that felt alright. Okay, so now roll all the way to the bottom. It takes about 10 minutes to get to the bottom. I can get off the bike. I'm gonna go and eat, have a wash, have a stretch, and get straight back on, hopefully. I think it takes about 10 minutes, so if I can do all that in the descent, then I'll be finished a bit earlier later on today. We'll see what happens, but that felt fine. Just feels like I've been riding for an hour at zone 2. Bit sweaty indoors, a little bit harder to pace it than I thought it would be, but pretty much averaged out at zone 2, so let's go have a wash. Oh, almost. Most of the way up the second climb now. Feeling it more than the first one, that's for sure. We should be alright. The fatigue is gonna build and build and build. See what happens. Next thing that I thought about preparing for this is the fueling, because something like this I want to be taking in about 80 to 100 grams carbs per hour. It's really important, otherwise just fade out later on. I've got it quite easy because, as you probably know, I'm supported by Velo Forte. So I can eat Velo Forte bars, 1 or 2 of those an hour. But I've also got a bunch of other treats to help me along the way. But actually, one really cool thing is Velo Forte contacted me about 2 weeks ago with a new product to test. And it's a protein powder. So actually, on a ride like this, that's going to be really handy. The longer you ride, the more your body starts to feed on its own fat stores. Eventually, it will start to feed on its own muscles too. It's called catabolism. I'm out of breath, sorry. So to avoid that, just got to keep the protein intake up. So I'm going to be drinking tropical protein powder from Velo Forte, and hopefully I'll get a really good training benefit from this ride, and I sacrifice all of my leg muscles in the process. That's the idea anyway. And if you want to buy any, I'll put a discount in the description below. Almost through the third climb now, and it's starting to hurt actually. I think I might have overdone it with water and food to begin with. Felt like I was dehydrating, but maybe not as bad as I thought. Then just felt sick. I think I'm getting back on track, so that's helping. The third thing I thought about getting ready for this was the pacing, because it's really easy to go overboard, blow up and not finish. So I'm planning to pace this zone 2 all the way through, and the upper end of my zone 2 is about 210 watts. I'll be trying to go around that, although it has been lower, so I don't mind as long as it's inside zone 2. I should be on track for about 12 hours. If you look to the top left, that bar shows which zone I'm in. So all the while zone 2, the blue bar is highlighted. I'm all good. And I'm also noticing on the right, all the hairpins are numbered. The colour of the number tells me how bad that sector's going to be. That's helping. You think zone 2 is endurance. That's an easy way to pace it. It's going to really hurt. It already is. So I'm about 1/3 through the whole thing now. We're getting there slowly. Now 3,400 meters, and the legs playing ball again now. I did have a bit of an issue. Started to feel dehydrated, drank far too much, ate too much, overdid it. Legs were feeling very bad. Getting back on track now, I realised what was going wrong. Top of this climb, I'll be almost halfway. That's a pretty good feeling. And good point to talk about the fourth thing. I did preparing for this is have a mental game plan. Generally with this sort of thing, once I'm over the halfway point, I feel way better. So that's my plan. Get past the halfway point and take it one step at a time. I think that's the best thing to do, is to break it down climb by climb and hairpin by hairpin. I'm just taking it one hairpin at a time, and slowly but surely I'll get through this. Almost 5,000 now to a 12-hour effort, but it's looking more and more like I'm gonna get to the end. Almost halfway, 4,200 meters, just over the 5th climb. I will say, it's going a lot slower than I thought it would be. I thought I'd get everything I needed to do done in the descents, but can't really. So, overall, I thought I'd be done in about 12 hours. Overall, all in, it's looking like it's probably going to be more like 13 or 14. That said, I did just treat myself to a shower halfway through, so that's added a few minutes on, but really helped. Fifth ascent, and the 5th thing I thought about to make this a bit more bearable is comfort. Improving the comfort, making sure the bike is set up right, but also gloves indoors, a little bit more cushion for my hands, that makes a big difference. Had a shower halfway through as a reward. I feel way more comfortable now as a result. I changed my bib shorts, my base layer, and on top of that, plenty of chamois cream. And comfort wise, feeling pretty good. It's just the amount of time I'm spending on here that's grating. With 4,729 meters, it's definitely a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Halfway through climb number 6 now, so 2 more full climbs after this. Not feeling too bad, still just pain in the legs building up, but it's manageable. Another thing I planned for this effort was to have some distractions, try to take my mind off this. Been sitting in front of this screen for 8 hours looking at the same road over and over again, and it's soul destroying. So I'm listening to podcasts and music. Originally planned to watch some films and TV, but even with this on the screen, it's not the easiest to maintain pacing. So I'm going to leave it on and just listen to the podcasts. I'm getting tired, and it's dark again. It started in the dark, finished in the dark. So I'm about to start this 7th climb. God help me. And to be honest, I'm getting pretty tired now. Pace and wise, energy wise, not too bad. But it's starting to build up in my legs and getting more and more painful. So this is the last thing that I considered before taking this on. Dehydration. It's indoors, in the warm, with a fan blowing all the liquid off of you. It's really easy to dehydrate. And actually I think I misjudged that at the start of this. I went a bit too heavy with water. Actually, I think that hindered me for a couple of climbs. I was a bit too worried about it, to be honest. It is really important, but you can overdo it too. The fan is going to blow all that sweat off of you. You may not realise it. Training indoors, you sweat a hell of a lot. So I'm trying to keep an eye on dehydration. 8 times up the Alp. If you ask me, that is about 7 times too many. I'll roll down, and I've got the final half to get done. Just got back on the bike to do this final push to the top. My motivation is not there. Really cannot be asked. Need some good music. One final push. 500 meters to go. And I was wondering, is Everesting on Zwift easy? Slowly but surely, I'm getting my answer. Turbo trainer dying in the final climb, I'd say that's just about worst case scenario. But let me tell you, felt like a heart attack in my backside. Thankfully, before I knew it, back on the climb. And that, as they say, is that. 8854. Gave me about 3 achievements before it told me I'd actually finished. It's a bit cruel. That took far too long. To be honest, my fault, but I tried to time it to hit the Everesting at the top, and there's 1 hairpin left. But if you think I'm riding the rest of the way up, you are having a giraffe, as we say in the UK. Absolutely not. Well, there we go. I think I can tick that one off as complete. And I think that's a lesson in expectation versus reality. I expected this to take me around 12 hours with the pacing that I was planning. But honestly, I didn't concentrate enough. I got through fairly comfortably, although painfully, and more like 14 hours. Some of the preconceptions I had going into this were right, and some of them not so much. Ultimately, I got through it, so I'm happy. The initial reaction after finishing it was a bit disappointment, to be honest, that I didn't focus enough and didn't finish in the time frame that I was kind of planning for. It's easy to feel like that and forget the fact that I just rode 14 hours on a turbo trainer and climbed the height of Mount Everest. So I'm kind of proud of it, but as proud as you can be of something stupid as that. I think at some point in the near future I'm going to try to do one of these outdoors as well, try to compare the difference. Doing it indoors was a great training session, having all the food near to me, all of the carbohydrates and protein powder from Velo Forte, other food, lots of water. It was a really convenient way to ride ultra. So if you're watching this and you're considering doing a challenge like this, definitely do it. It's a really good training session, at least, for your legs and your body, but also for your mind. Getting back on the bike and going through the exact same process 9 times, it was taking me about 80 odd minutes to get up the climbs by the end. So having a short break, hopping back on the bike and doing that over and over, mentally that's a really good exercise. But anyway, I can forget about this one for now. I've got my first race in 8 weeks' time, and I started thinking last night about a really interesting challenge I might take on at some point in the spring. So I hope you all look after yourselves, stay healthy, keep riding your bike, and I'll see you all on the next one.